In the heart of the savannah, under the golden glow of dusk, an impossible scene unfolded. A leopard walked elegantly through the tall grass, followed by her two spotted cubs, and, between them, a small, golden retriever with golden fur and an innocent gaze. It defied everything that was known about nature. But what seemed like just an improbable miracle was about to reveal an even deeper secret, something that no one could have predicted. The sun rose over the African plain when Myra Naira, a solitary and protective leopard, was returning from a hunt. The wind carried the scent of damp earth and freshly cut grass, damp with morning dew. Then a different sound broke the silence, a soft, short, repeated cry. Naira approached silently, moving like a shadow among the leaves. Behind a burnt trunk, she found a small, golden puppy. He was trembling and covered in dust. He didn't belong there. Instinct told her to go ahead, to let nature take its course, but something made her stop. The puppy's eyes lifted to her, not with fear, but with pure, innocent trust. Naira, confused, recoiled for a moment. Then, in a gesture that defied all logic of predatory instinct, she lowered her head and touched her muzzle to the little dog. The puppy responded with a soft, weak bark, like a silent plea for help. In a move that the forest rangers would never understand, Naira carefully took him between her teeth and carried him to her shelter, where her two cubs awaited her. From that moment on, something extraordinary began. An unlikely bond had been formed, a link that would change not only the destiny of that little dog, but also how the wild heart of a leopard. In the first few days, the little puppy golden retriever, he could barely keep up with the leopard cubs. While they ran and rolled through the tall grass, he stumbled over his own paws, still clumsy and weak. Naira watched everything closely, alternating between the patience of a mother and the vigilance of a hunter. At night, she lay down, enveloping the three cubs with her body, protecting them from the cold and the sounds of the savannah. The difference between them didn't matter. Under Naira's warmth, they all breathed in harmony. The forest rangers, who monitored the area with drones and cameras, were incredulous. A leopard caring for a domestic dog was something never recorded before. Some thought it would be a matter of time before the hunting instinct manifested itself, but day after day, Naira proved otherwise. She shared the meat with the small dog, licked its wounds, and even chased away jackals that came too close. Over time, the cub, nicknamed Sunny thanks to the guards, things began to change. He learned to move discreetly, to sniff the wind before advancing, and to respect the silence of the jungle. In return, Sunny brought something none of the leopards knew, a different kind of joy, light, almost childlike. She played without fear, wagged her bottom, and lay on her stomach before her adoptive mother, a gesture that Naira came to understand as a sign of trust. In that isolated corner of the savannah, a new family was born, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the weeks stretched on, the routine of that unlikely family took root. Naira established simple rules: where to sleep, when to hunt, which paths to avoid. She taught without words: a touch on a cub's shoulder, a low growl to get attention, a deliberate retreat showing where the shade was safe. Sunny learned how to position her body, to use her sense of smell to detect clean water, and even to move with the same feline elegance when danger lurked. It was a mutual learning process. The leopard cubs tried to imitate the dog's playful ways, while Sunny absorbed discipline and silence. The guards watched from a distance, torn between fascination and apprehension. They recorded every scene, every interaction, Naira's affectionate licking, the playful fights that ended in kisses, the nights the trio slept intertwined. They knew the savannah was unforgiving. A moment of distraction could cost lives. Therefore, they monitored Naira's movements with heightened care, attentive to signs of changes in the cub's behavior, ready to intervene if nature finally reclaimed what seemed impossible. At the same time, the bond became a practical force. Where there had once been vulnerability, there was now collective protection. Naira patrolled the surroundings with the same ferocity as always, but her ferocity included the dog. When hyenas prowled at night, it was Naira who advanced, and Sunny, despite being domesticated by origin, instinctively dodged in the rear, protected by the leopard's body. In the savannah, where alliances rarely cross species, that trio began to look like a unit capable of defying any threat. But it was on a sweltering afternoon that something changed. The air vibrated, and the shadows lengthened as a distant roar pierced the valley. Naira stopped, her muscles tense, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Sunny sensed it too. Her nose betrayed the metallic, aggressive scent of another predator. It growled low, ears erect. Naira, without averting her gaze, gently nudged one of the cubs with her snout, signaling silence. It was an intruding male, a huge adult leopard, claiming territory. And in that instant, Naira's family was not just a curiosity of nature, it was a threat to the laws of the wild. The intruder approached, sniffing the air with hostility. Sunny positioned herself beside Naira, her body in an alert stance, the fur on her back standing on end. The scene seemed absurd, a golden retriever, bred for human affection, challenging a top predator. But Naira didn't back down, and neither did Sunny. The air smelled of dust and tension. The intruder roared, marking its territory. Naira responded with a roar that echoed through the trees, deep and protective. The puppies cowered behind the dog, and Sunny stood firm, as if understanding that she couldn't show fear. The guards, hidden among the bushes a few meters away, watched breathlessly. One of them murmured, "If he attacks, it's over." The other simply held the radio, unable to decide whether to intervene. Then Naira advanced, not in attack, but in a swift, calculated movement, commanding respect. The leopard hesitated. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. And in that brief silence, Sunny stepped forward, growling. Small, golden, but with the heart of a giant. The tension dissipated as the intruder, confused by this unlikely alliance, slowly retreated until it disappeared into the undergrowth. When the danger had passed, Naira looked at Sunny. It was a silent look of recognition. In that moment, she no longer saw a dog. She saw a partner, a guardian. That night, the savannah seemed to breathe peacefully once more. The moon cast its silvery light over Naira's territory, and the distant sound of crickets filled the air. Sunny rested near the den, with Naira's cubs curled up around her, fast asleep. The leopard, lying a little further on, watched everything in silence, her gaze alternating between calm and natural vigilance. Even at rest, she was an attentive mother, and now Sunny was part of this new and unlikely family. The following days were marked by a harmonious routine. Sunny accompanied Naira on hunts, not as a predator, but as an observer and guardian. While she went off to find food, he stayed with the cubs, protecting them from hyenas and jackals that roamed the area. One afternoon, a group of baboons tried to approach the den. Sunny ran off, barking and baring his teeth, forcing the troop to scatter. When Naira returned, she found the little one safe and Sunny, exhausted, panting with his chest heaving. She approached, rubbing her head against his neck, in a gesture that, among felines, was the greatest sign of trust. The guards, who had been watching from a distance, began to record the behavior in reports. "We've never seen anything like it," one of them said, adjusting the camera lens. "It's as if it learned the instincts of a leopard." The videos began circulating among researchers, and quickly, the case of Naira and Sunny earned the nickname the Wild Mother and the Golden Dog. Over time, the pups began to grow and learn from both of them. They imitated Naira as they slithered through the bushes, but they also played with Sunny, chasing their own tails and nibbling at their ears. It was a contrast between two worlds, the wild and the domestic, coexisting in a harmony that defied all logic of nature. And as the pups grew into strong and curious youngsters, Sunny seemed to understand that his role there was coming to an end, but the bond that had been forged between him and Naira would never be broken. Months passed, and the rainy season completely transformed the savanna landscape. The dry soil gave way to verdant fields, and the air filled with the constant sound of birds. Naira and her 3 cubs, including Sunny, now hunted, played, and explored as an inseparable group. But something was beginning to change. The 2 young leopards, Lumo and Zara, grew strong, and their predatory instincts began to awaken. Their once curious gazes became more attentive and hunting-minded. Sunny, though still part of the family, began to feel a silent distance, something invisible but inevitable. One morning, after a hunt, Naira brought a dead gazelle to feed her children. The little leopards immediately pounced, tearing the flesh with natural ferocity. Sunny, hesitant, approached, but recoiled at the metallic scent of blood. He didn't belong in that moment. He wasn't hunting, he wasn't killing, he was only observing. Naira noticed the golden dog's hesitation, and, for an instant, something in her gaze changed. She knew that the cycle of nature was calling each one to their destiny, and his might no longer be there. The guards also noticed the transition. Through their binoculars, they saw how Sunny began to distance himself from the group on some days, wandering along the edges of the territory, observing the human campfires in the distance. "He's torn," commented one of the observers. "The savanna has embraced him, but his heart still seeks something he has lost." And silently, Sunny seemed to understand that his time with Naira and the cubs was reaching a turning point, a moment that would test everything that love and instinct had built up until then. On a sweltering afternoon, the wind carried the smell of smoke and something even more alarming, the smell of danger. A group of poachers had invaded Naira's territory, setting traps and spreading panic among the animals. Gunshots echoed across the savanna, and the frightened cubs ran in different directions. Sunny, now bigger and faster, heard Zara's cry coming from a small valley. Without hesitation, he darted towards her, crossing the tall grass with a courage that would surprise even the fiercest of predators. When he arrived, he saw Zara trapped in an iron snare, desperately trying to free herself. Sunny growled and barked loudly, attracting the hunter's attention, but also alerting Naira, who emerged from the shadows like a flash. With a powerful leap, the leopard attacked one of the invaders, while the other tried to reload his weapon. Sunny, overcome with courage, lunged at the man, grabbing the fabric of his trousers and pulling him back, distracting him long enough for Naira to take him down. The chaos lasted only a few minutes, but it was enough to change everything. The gunfire ceased when the reserve guards arrived, alerted by the explosions. The hunters fled, leaving traps and destruction behind. Naira, wounded, approached Sarah and freed her. Sunny, panting and covered in dust, nuzzled the leopard, as if to say that everything would be all right. In that instant, the guards understood. That dog was not just a survivor, it was part of Naira's family, and together they had faced the danger as one heart. The following days were silent. The savannah seemed to breathe a sigh of relief after the hunters' invasion. But something in Naira had changed. She walked more slowly, with a distant look, as if she knew that the balance that had sustained that unlikely family was coming to an end. Sunny was now a young adult dog, strong and disciplined, but different from the leopards. He didn't hunt the same way, he didn't sleep in the trees, and, most importantly, he didn't belong to that wildlife. One morning, as the sun rose, gilding the horizon, the reserve guards spotted Naira descending the hill with her cubs and Sunny by her side. She walked with determination toward the human camp, showing no signs of fear. As they approached, the guards stood motionless, observing the unbelievable scene, the leopard and the dog side by side, like mother and child. When they were close enough, Naira stopped. She looked at Sunny, gave a slight nudge with her snout, and let out a soft roar, a gesture of farewell. Sunny hesitated. He looked at her, then at the humans. In his eyes, there was confusion and divided loyalty. But Naira slowly walked away, glancing back only once before disappearing among the trees. Sunny ran a few steps, barking as if begging her to come back, but she didn't. The guards approached and took him in, and in that moment they understood what they were witnessing. It wasn't a simple separation, but the purest act of love that nature could offer, letting go of the one you love so that they can live in peace. The entire camp fell silent as Sunny was taken away by the guards. The little golden, now an adult, looked one last time at the line of trees where Naira had disappeared. No one could hear, but everyone felt that, even separated, the two were still connected, as if one's heart beat in rhythm with the other's. The following days confirmed what the guards suspected. Naira remained in the vicinity, but never attacked the reserve's patrol dogs again. It was as if she recognized in them a reflection of the puppy she had raised. The story of Naira and Sunny quickly spread among the savannah workers, touching all who heard it. It proved that maternal love knows no boundaries, nor is it limited by species. In a world driven by instinct and survival, a leopard chose to care for, protect, and love what nature deemed her enemy. Her choice not only saved a life, but also challenged everything that was believed to be known about the wild heart of nature. Even today, they say that on the quietest nights, it's possible to hear a faint bark coming from the savannah, followed by a distant roar. Two sounds so different, yet linked by something eternal. The bond of a love that defied the laws of wildlife and transformed the impossible into reality. If you enjoyed the story, please like it, subscribe to the channel to help me bring you more stories, activate the notification bell, and comment with your thoughts, tips, and suggestions. Keep watching other videos and be moved by more incredible stories.